Okay, Lee, hello, and thanks for your time to talking with us again. This is, I think this is like the fourth or fifth time our magazine talk with you, and it's the third time
Yeah.
I talk with you. I talk when you
Oh,
came to
okay, nice.
the festival in Orbita, and
Ah, I was
then
I was
when,
talking to the organizer of Orbita earlier today,
oh, nice, nice, and then when you came
Carmen. Yeah.
with Electric Dream, with the album Electric Dream, that was the second
Yes.
time.
Okay.
Um,
Cool.
so again, talking about new music, this new album,
Yes.
I want to ask you about a lot of things about this record. But first, this of course was like your COVID album because it was in the
Yes,
quarantine.
for sure.
Yeah. So it is very intimate and reflects the feelings of the pandemic. So I want to start with that. How was the whole process to bring this record to life?
Well, I mean, it was it was an interesting process. Um, my last record with Raul Refri came out in February 2020, just a week or so before the pandemic started. That record was called Names of North End Women.
Hmm.
And then, we had the entire year of 2020 planned with touring and concerts and things like that. And then everything, of course, stopped. And when that happened, when March came and everybody was confined to their homes and, the pandemic really started, I stopped playing music at that point for 3 or 4 months. I didn't touch a guitar or do any music. I mean, Raul and I had so many things planned and then everything stopped. And I had just spent a year creating that record. And I was very confused. I found it at the times very confusing, as well as being full of anxiety between the pandemic and some people close to me died early on in the pandemic. And then the whole thing with Trump across that year building to this, to the elections. Um, and when I finally started making music again, it was August or September it was September when I sat down to make the recordings that became In Virus Times.
Hmm.
And I picked up the guitar as though I was a brand new player, as though I was a beginner in a sense,
Hmm.
and I was just sort of strumming it open and listening to the sound of the strings vibrating. And I really felt like I was coming to the instrument with a brand new, as a brand new player,
Hmm.
and so the recording of this record is very repetitive and rudimentary, and in a way it really feels to me like it reflects the time we were living in. I was listening
Yes.
to a lot of repetitive instrumental music that had no lyrics and a lot of space between notes and things, especially this composer named Morton Feldman. I
Hmm.
was listening to a lot of his music, and it's really just like a sound and then silence and then a sound and then silence. And it all seemed to influence the making of this record. But I didn't plan this to be a record. When I made the
Hmm.
recordings, I was making them just for myself. I started to play the guitar again, and normally if I'm recording an idea, I do it on my phone or small tape
Hmm.
recorder or something. But in this case, I thought, like, let me set up proper microphones and make a really nice recording. And it was only later when I was working on shaping the piece, because the night I recorded this music, I recorded maybe 90 minutes or 100 minutes of music.
Hmm.
And then I spent the next 3 months editing it and structuring it and shaping it down into the 4 sections of the record. And it was only then that I started thinking maybe it was a record. But the night I recorded it, you can hear sirens out the window,
Yes.
sounds of police cars or people talking in the next room. Like, I didn't take such care because I wasn't thinking it was ever going to be on a record. I was just
Hmm.
making it for myself. But then in a way, it really felt like it reflected the times. Like, our studio was was shut. I couldn't go to a studio to make any recordings, and so what is the option? You're sitting at home, you're recording on your own, by yourself, and the environment became a part of the sound of the record in a sense.
Did you try to go to studio to record something, or always had the idea to make this record at home?
Well, like I said, it wasn't even an idea for a record. It was just an evening playing the guitar. But at that point, all the studios were closed.
Yes.
Sonic Youth still has a studio, but it was completely shut. There was no access to the studio because of the pandemic, and it wasn't possible to go to a studio at that moment.
I was reading the press release of this album that you say that it was between the anxiety of the then upcoming election of United States. That strumming we hear in the album, it's very like from anger, do you felt something like that when you was playing this?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it was anger so much as like frustration, for sure. And frustration has an element of anger, but in that period, we weren't seeing anybody else. The streets were empty. There were no cars, no people, no tourists, no anything. You saw the people you live with, and maybe, I don't know, 3 or 4 other people in your life, but really everybody was leading such an isolated life that it was very frustrating, especially after some months and not knowing whether, how much longer it was going to be. So I think there's a lot of frustration that comes out in the music, and maybe more frustration than anger, but there's probably a bit of anger in there too.
And in certain aspect, we still don't know when this is going to end. A lot of tours and festivals are already getting pushed to 2023.
Yes.
Do you have any plans to touring? Not with this record, of course, but with your music in general?
Well, I don't really have plans for touring at the moment, but I did, in the last 6 weeks, I've done 4 concerts here in New York. Each one a different setting, one of which was performing this album. I did 1 concert performing the record, but I did 3 other concerts with other musicians in different formats. And I have 1 concert planned in France in January with Raul. And but that's all at the moment. I'm really, it's still so uncertain what can happen next year, and I think I'm going to, in general, approach concerts with a different kind of mindset going forward, rather than touring, 3 or 4 weeks of playing every night. I want to play fewer shows, but make them more special. And so, I mean, for instance, there's talk of a concert in Chile,
nice.
And maybe some other places in South America, but it's still just at the beginning of talking about it, and we're not exactly sure when it will be, but maybe in March or April of next year at the earliest. But so it's hard to say. But there's, we're thinking about it. But right now, as you say, it's still unknown whether. You hate to book shows and then have to cancel them, because of the pandemic. But right now, we don't know what's going to happen. So
yes. Well, here in Chile has been a slow process to back to normal. I mean, theaters are opening. We can go to see movies, but live shows, it's still something like with very local artists and not people from other countries. Lee, I was watching your Instagram. You went to see Bob Dylan a couple of nights ago.
Yeah.
One thing that kept my attention that you went on your bike. It's that correct?
Yeah.
Do you like to bike around the city, or when you go to another place, do you like to bike to meet the country you're in?
Yeah. Yeah, all the time. I mean, here I'm on my bicycle all the time. Some, to go from place to place, but also just to go out and ride for an hour or two for health and for mental health. And so I'm really into it. And I ride a racing bicycle, but I also ride the city bikes that are on every corner. I was riding home. I rode home from. I went to see Dylan 2 nights, and the second night I rode home on the bike. But yeah, and if I'm going somewhere else, I'm always trying to find a bicycle and get out and see the city that way. I really like to do it. It's a great way to see a new place.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, nice. You also went to see Charlie XCX. It was a couple of months ago. Yeah. Do you listen to new music? You like pop music or that kind of stuff?
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. All the time. All the time. I mean, I'm always interested in what's going on, and we have 2 sons who are 20 and 22, so they're always bringing new music into the house too. And our older son is a big fan of Kanye West and listens to a lot of hip hop, and the younger one listens more to sort of stuff like Charlie and other stuff like that. And so I'm always hearing a lot of this stuff, and I really love to keep in touch. Of course, I still listen to Bob Dylan or to different people from all periods of rock music, but I love to listen to the latest music. And I was saying this to somebody else the other day. Sometimes the most experimental production on records these days is being made by some of the biggest artists
Yes.
It used to be experimental records were made by obscure indie artists, but lately, like if you listen to Kanye or Kendrick or a lot of these records, they have the most experimental sounds going on, as well as being really popular. So it's interesting to stay in touch with that stuff. I listen to a lot of different stuff.
Yes, that's true that you say. A lot of very popular artists like Kanye West or Billie Eilish, Lord, their last records are very different in comparison to the previous stuff. And that is something very interesting, because it's very well, not Kanye, but Lord and Billy are young people that are in her second, third album. So we have a lot more to hear in the future. Yes, Lee. Well, I know this record just came out, but do you have any plans to make anything else in the future?
Yeah, I'm starting to think about the next record, and Raul and I are finally. It looks like we'll finally be able to start meeting and hope to work together on the next record. It's going to be very different from this record. I mean, this record is a one of a kind of thing, basically, precipitated by this pandemic. But we're planning on making a record next year, and I'm just starting to think about it and work on ideas for it.
That will be you and Raul, or that will be Raul working with you in the Ranaldo album?
Yeah, us together on a record with both of our names, like the last one. I don't know, maybe I'll make a record on my own as well, but our plan is to work together on some projects as well.
Lee, a couple of, I guess it was 1 week since it was the 10th anniversary of the last Sonic Youth show here in Chile. And a couple of days after was the last Sonic Youth show. It was in Brazil in 2011. So looking back, how do you see Sonic Youth today? How do you see the band that you were a lot of your life?
Yeah. Well, of course, I'm very proud of everything that we did, and I'm in close touch with Thurston and Kim and Steve. And in a way, it's still an ongoing entity for us. We're always being asked to put songs in movies and things like that, or we're doing archive releases of old concerts and studio recordings that nobody's ever heard and things like that. So, you know, after 30 years working together, it's not like it stopped cold and it was over. You know, for us, Sonic Youth is still an ongoing thing, even if we're not recording music together now or making new performances. So, you know, it's cool to see the legacy of it, to see how much influence we had in certain places, and how people still, you know, are still talking about our music is wonderful to hear, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So you know, to me it's still a living thing in a certain way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. Do you still make decisions together in terms of re-releasing albums and all that stuff?
Yeah, sure, we do. Actually, recently, you know, we came together to decide. We released two different albums on Bandcamp, like live recordings from Texas, and three different T-shirts to try and raise money to donate to. You know, in Texas, they just made all these anti-abortion laws and are making all these kind of conservative laws against women's rights and against you know, pro-choice rights. And so we did all of this stuff as a group to raise money to donate to some of the causes that are fighting that in Texas. And so, you know, we're always coming together for talking about things like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was talking with a friend the other day, and we say like Sonic Youth, it's like the Beatles, because you always play two or three of you play in something, but the four hasn't been together yet.
Yeah.
But I read an interview that you say never, but do you still think about a possible reunion?
You know, never say never, but I'm not thinking about it.
Okay.
You know, I think many of the fans are thinking about it, but I don't really think that we in the group are thinking about it so much. I mean, you know, it's always possible something could happen, but I think more than that, I think especially for Thurston and Kim and I, we're concentrating on having had this last 10 years to really develop these solo things. And you know, I'm very happy to see that we're all still active and creating new and interesting things. And you know, in a way, you know, it's a trade-off. We could have had 10 more years of Sonic Youth, but instead we have 10 years where we're each able to develop these very personal projects for each of us, and I'm very happy with that. And you know, we'll see. You know, we're all still here, so it's always possible something can happen. But you know, right now I think we're concentrating on our individual projects and not thinking about it as much as all the fans are thinking about it.
Yes, I understand. But has there been any offer to?
Yeah, there's been tons of offers.
Okay.
Yeah, there's been tons of offers. Yeah, but you know, most of those offers are just about they've been for you know, crazy money and things like that, and that was never a decision-making factor for Sonic Youth. We never based our decisions on how much money there was, and you know, so there have been some crazy offers, but it hasn't meant we were going to do it.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I remember when Thurston came with his band in 2015, 14, something like that. Someone in the crowd screamed a Sonic Youth song, and Thurston say, "We don't do covers." He said back to the. But you play a Sonic Youth show when you perform in Orbita in the show in the festival.
I played a song. Yeah.
Was that a special?
I've played a couple songs.
Yes,
I've played a couple Sonic Youth songs.
Was that a special moment we had seeing you playing a Sonic Youth song, or it's that you do?
Yeah, it was.
Oh, it was. Okay.
When you know, that was a special moment to do that song there. When Sonic Youth stopped and I first started doing my own band, in those first couple of years, like 2012, 2013, we were playing one or two Sonic Youth songs, that some of my vocal songs. We were playing Genetic, and we were playing Karen Coltrane, I think, for some of those very early tours when we only had one album worth of music and we needed some more stuff. We were playing a couple covers, and we were covering a couple Sonic Youth songs. But as soon as I had a couple albums out and more songs to play, I stopped playing Sonic Youth songs and didn't play anymore. And I kind of agree with Thurston. But for some reason at that En Orbita, I forget exactly why I ended up playing that song. I think that we had some, I can't remember, but I know it was a very special version.
Yeah. I have seen Slash many times here in Santiago, and with his band always play Guns N' Roses songs. But when Guns N' Roses came back together, he then came with a new record and didn't play any Guns N' Roses song, and the people was kind of upset. But hey, you see him with his band a lot of times before, so I don't understand why people doesn't focus on the new stuff.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, has been hard putting new music out with still this thing, the fans wanting old songs.
No, not for me at all. I've never really thought about that. It's always, putting out music and making new music has just been a constant factor. And even during the days of Sonic Youth, we were all releasing side projects and solo records and things like that. And it just kind of carried on. The only thing that stopped is the Sonic Youth records. And I don't feel compelled when I do a concert to play Sonic Youth songs. And I don't even feel like the audiences expect that at this point. And, I mean, I go to see artists in concert to see what they're doing and where they're at right now. Like, if I was going to see Slash, I wouldn't be going with the hopes that he was going to be playing Guns N' Roses songs.
Yes,
because
of course.
That's a I mean, it's hard to say. I mean, it's a strange thing because those songs are a part of his life, and Sonic Youth songs are a part of my life. But I guess I always feel like those songs, especially in Sonic Youth's case, they need the special combination of the four of us in order to work in concert, and I can do one or two here or there, but they were really reserved for playing when the four of us play together. So I don't really think about it. And, I really don't ever feel a pressure from the audience that they want to hear Sonic Youth music when they come to see me.
Nice. Well, Lee, that was the last question. I want to thank you for your time, talk with you again, and hope we see you next year here in Santiago.
Yeah, I hope so too. I think that will be really cool if it happens.
Okay, take care.